Coming home from the service was traumatic, particularly in Portland, Maine, if your father didn't own a business, you had to get the hell out of there, because there was really nothing going on for a young guy. And three of my buddies felt the same way. We got together and decided we got to move to Boston. At least, you know, we got each other and we'll do what we can. I started looking for a job. I'm a journalism student from the University of Missouri, and I'm looking for a job in journalism. I went to the newspapers, and I can remember one headhunter I went to with a one-sheet resume. That's all I had, my education and 3 years in the service. And he looks at that, and I think I was asking for $15,000 a year. He picks up a book this thick, slaps it in my lap. You see this guy? This is his resume, and he's asking for $5,000. You've got some nerve, you know. I went out of there on my knees. I was a disaster. Anyhow, I finally took part in the GI Bill, which had two portions to it. It had the college, they would pay it and go to college, or they had this a trainee program where you could go to work for somebody and they would pay you $25 a week, and the Veterans Administration would pay you $25. And you trained for the job. And I got a job in a one-man advertising agency, the Bill Small Agency. And it was a one-man operation. He had a secretary named Melbula Flewelling, who ran the operation because he was always out calling on clients. And he had an art department with an art director and an assistant, and in back a bookkeeper. That was it. I was in what we called the bullpen at advertising agencies. The bullpen were all the artists. Well, there was only 2 artists, and I had a desk in the bullpen. One of the most notable events that I can remember is the art director was Dick Johnson, one of the most talented commercial artists I had ever seen. What he could do with the layout, with the movement of his hands, beautiful flowers, and he was just, I'd stand and watch him over his shoulder. He was that good. And I wondered how a little one-man operation has got a guy like this. But I soon learned that Bill Small realized that nobody else counted in an agency except the art director, a guy like that. So he paid everybody else nothing and had no other employees, but put it all in the cost of a good art director. And he used to go to New York and compete with the big agencies for talent. Despite that, what he used to do, he used to spend all day calling on his clients and then come back until midnight, sit in his office, and I would see that light on the 8th floor in downtown Boston all the time. making suggestions to Vic Johnson by taking a red pencil and a lined yellow paper and drawing layouts for Vic Johnson. And he'd pin it to Johnson's desk. Johnson would come in the morning, enraged when he sees it, take it, throw it in the wastebasket. Happened every day. One day, however, he did the same thing. Big Johnson did that, walked across in front of Melba into the boss's office. Hey, where are you going? What are you doing? See, he didn't say anything. He took the yellow pad with a big red tempera and he wrote, "Fuck you." And he left right there. That was it. Anyhow, he got a job immediately at one of the biggest agencies in town because he had already a reputation, they knew, anyhow. But we realized that the boss had to go to New York to get an art director. She's gone a couple days. And one morning, a cold winter morning, some guy at 8 o'clock with black curly hair and a sharp, very sharp overcoat comes in and says to me, "I'm the new art director, where's my desk?" And she says, you know, right around from her, right around the corner, right there. So he takes his coat off, and I go up, I introduce myself. He brushes me off. Okay, so I go back to my desk, and it's all very quiet. About 10 o'clock that morning when I hear Melba hollering around the wall, "Warren!" And he says, "Yeah." "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm pulling my pud." With that, I rushed over to him and hugged him, and we became the best friends till even today. As a matter of fact, Warren and his wife became the first people that your mother and I went to tell them we were going to get married. And that began the Boston part of my life. Then the agency problem, I wanted more money because I couldn't live on what I was making, primarily because the red tape was trying to get the money from the Veterans Administration. I had to borrow money from Locke and my friends, both my friends, and I couldn't make it. So I told the boss, and he couldn't afford it anymore. That was it. I don't know whether we had a man who sold us engraving, who engraved all the plates. Mr. Yarminian, nice man. He offered me a job. He asked me how much I was making. I said, "Oh, theoretically, $50 a week. I'll pay you $50 a week." Well, here at least I would get the 25, so I left. The first day I knew I can't make a cold call. With somebody else, I'm great, but a cold call I just can't make. I knew I was not going to be long for that. I couldn't make a call. And if you're selling engraving, you got to make a sale. So we had this client at the agency, Joseph Antel. That was the name of a shoe store, fancy shoe store, opposite the Ritz-Carlton in Boston, on 0 Newbury Street. And Vic Johnson had made a magnificent logo out of Joseph Antel with a masquerade mask, you know, coming out of it. And then in fancy lettering underneath, opposite the Ritz-Carlton. Well, he did a lot of mail order advertising in the big magazines, Charm, and Glamour, Ladies Home. Any time that the paste-up guy forgot to put in the line opposite Ritz-Carlton, Antel would come raging into the agency. Okay. I'm walking the street one day, wondering what I'm going to do. Here's Joseph Antel. Hey, Dave, how are you? Where you been? I haven't seen you. I told him. He said, how do you like it? I said, I hate it. He said, tell me something. If all those ads that I place, the agency makes 15%, right? Yeah. What if I placed them? I said, that's possible. You start your own agency in-house. It's done all the time. You know how to do that? I said, yeah. It's no big deal. Terrific. I'll pay you $75 a week. I said, well, I got to give you maybe a couple of weeks' notice. Okay. October 15. I had so little money, I had to go home to Portland to eat for those 2 weeks. I come back, I go in, October 15, to make it short. He didn't remember. He changed his mind. I'm sorry, Dave, but nah, it ain't gonna work out. I really lost it. He reached in his pocket, took out a $20 bill and gave it to me. And I told him where to put the $20 bill. And I was out of a job. Swallowed my pride and went back to Bill Small. He says, Jesus, Dave, why didn't you ask me first? I could have told you the guy is a miserable bastard. I wouldn't have allowed you to even get near the guy. He said, wait a minute. He says, hey. He said, I went to a Harvard-Yale game Saturday with one of my clients, and he had a client of his who owns a department store up in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And I remember he said he's looking for an advertising manager. Hold on. Because the phone picks up, calls his client. You got a phone number of this guy? You think he still needs an ad? I don't know, call him up. He calls him up. Boy, have I got him. You know, he asked him, do you need him? Yeah. Oh, have I got him. An admin, the smartest kid in Boston. Wow, we got an appointment. Go up to Lawrence. I had met your mother at Old Orchard Beach that summer. She was a waitress. She had just graduated Michigan. And she was a waitress at a hotel with a friend of mine's girlfriend. We used to double date. A couple times we went out. And I knew her plan was she wanted to get into publications. And she was going to go to New York after the summer. I come walking, I elevator down from the 8th floor to Boylston Street. And at the corner, there's a subway entrance. And I'm walking by when somebody comes toward me, and I look, it's your mother. Hey, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in New York. Anyhow, we start talking. She got tired of the cockroaches, and she couldn't really find a job, so she came home. So I told her my story. I said, hey, take a walk over. I live right down here. I was always proud of this place that we lived in, and 8 Commonwealth Avenue. And I told her what was going on, and I was going up for an interview to get this job. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll call you up, and if I get the job, we'll have dinner. Terrific, I'll meet you. There's a delicatessen right next to Boston Garden, North Station, and I'll meet you there. Terrific. Okay. So I go up and I get the job. And I call up and we have dinner as celebration. And that's how we started going together. She lived in Malden, which was the subway and a bus, but she did it. She'd leave my place at 8, come over at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to Malden. Until one day we went to a Boston Braves baseball game, and they lost a doubleheader. And we were so depressed, we decided, let's get married. Honest to God. That's what happened.